actually building something.
I've talked about this before, but I really have a hard time putting a finger on how smart I am. There's some evidence that I'm above average, right? Like I have it's douchebaggery. Forgive me for this. I have 3 degrees. I have 2 business undergrads and a master's in engineering. Multimillionaire, if that means anything. I don't know, dancing champion. Like there are some things that would indicate that I'm kind of cool. And then
That's
there's
the natural third, dancing champion in that YouTube contest.
I prefer award-winning dancer.
Yeah, award-winning dancer. Thank you.
Because then it sounds
Exactly
like you won a
where I
Tony
thought it
or
was going.
something.
Award-winning dancer. And then there's other stuff. Like I will just not remember why I banned someone on my Minecraft server yesterday. And like my staff, they all remember. They all know. And I'll be like, hey, this guy, you know, like I'll list off an IGN. Like, what do I know him for? And they'll be like, yeah, he's the guy you had this experience with. Actors' names, I am dreadful. It's like
Arguably the worst person I've ever met at it. I'm not convinced that it's not a bit. I'm honestly not. I'm convinced that you pretend to not know people's names for a bit.
I'm arguably retarded with regards to people's names. I could point to say like, hey, I'm probably a standard deviation above average, and I could make a compelling case for the opposite.
There's a thing, isn't there? Lots of smart people that, like, you know, have those various different. You know, there's face blindness and there's name blindness, and that's actually a thing. And lots of very smart people have the name blindness. So you'll often find. Sorry?
Directions. If you gave me driving directions that involve more than 2 or 3 turns, I'd probably stop paying attention. And
I think it's a smart person thing, because I know an theoretical physicist who's doing a PhD. I have to remind him who I am every time we meet, and he's known me for 6 years. He cannot find his way anywhere. He like struggles to wash himself, or just to remember, like to bother to do it. Totally useless. Can't remember anything, but.
He is on the autism spectrum.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
That seems
maybe you just have like a slightly less severe version of that.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know.
Be.
Which would be an indicator.
I just know that next episode of this podcast, he's going to refer back to how good the episode with Marco Yellow Cloud was. No one's going to know what the fuck we're talking about. Like, I have no idea. Completely forget it.
Yeah, your last name, for example, I would look at it, get maybe 3 letters in, and then freestyle the rest. You know, just like, Milo
Yiannopoulos. I've been doing the same thing for 30 years. You know?
Okay.
He'll make it sound like a French baked good or something. Yiannopoulos, right? Yeah.
No, when you're on the phone to the water company, like, can you spell your surname? Nope. I have to get a credit card out, and read it out. Not quite that bad, but almost.
Just a lot of vowels. Just put it together.
Yeah, no, that. And then if I'm drunk, I put like 2 P's where there's only 1 P, and 2 L's where there's only 1 L, and I miss a U. I spell it wrong all the time. I'm logging into stuff online. I'm locking myself out of accounts.
I'm not going to give you shit anymore, Woody. This guy can't spell his fucking name.
Yeah, it's not easy, but it is yours.
Do you know his name? There are always stories in the all these stories in the British press, and I don't know if this was ever true, but like the Brits love kind of like, oh, Americans are stupid news stories, and there was this rash of
Florida man
of stories in the British press about how you got points on an American exam paper for writing your own name correctly, and I was sitting there thinking, ain't that easy?
That's
especially
the SAT,
some of the
and
African
that's not
Americans
fair.
here. Those names.
Oh, like
very
Murka and some of the some of the surnames are just, how the fuck do you spell that?
On the SAT, it's an American standardized test. You probably know of it. If you get questions wrong, they take away points. So to get you to, I guess, never having a negative score, they start you at 200. And then in theory, if you got every question wrong, you'd get a 0.
So that's what happened. Like some idiot British journalist just made this shit up.
It's what it sounds like to me.
Because he didn't understand how the SATs work. And he's like, oh, you get 200 points like just for showing up.
That happens a lot. Do you remember the old story they always tell about how the NASA spent a couple $1 million building the pen that would work in 0 gravity? Meanwhile, the Russians used a pencil.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I guess I got some clarification on that from Reddit the other day. And apparently, the reason that NASA didn't use a pencil was because the graphite shavings in 0 gravity float around, get into systems, and it's a pure oxygen environment, and start fucking O2 fires in space.
Wow.
And the guy who developed the pen spent $1 million of his own money, not federal money, to create this pen, and then the Russians switched to a similar pen very soon after.
That is so interesting.
I always knew that little stories like that are horse shit, but I never put in the 3 seconds of Googling to figure out how.